What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sixers Pregame Live right here on DSM Media's YouTube channel. I'm your host at Scotty Drown. That's where you can find me on all social media platforms. I'm here with our regular co-host, Dylan Davis, also another founder of DSM Media. You can find Dylan at DylanJD98. Before we get into anything tonight, be sure to hit that subscribe button right here on the YouTube channel. That's what it's all about. Hit the like button. Let us know if you're liking the show. And in the comments, let us know how you're feeling. We'd love to hear from you. Obviously, the MVP race is heating up. The Eastern Conference race is heating up. Sixers season is in full swing, and we're getting closer to the playoffs. So we're definitely eager to hear from you guys out there. But Dylan, how's it going, my man? It feels like it's been a while. I know I didn't do any shows over the weekend. I was a little busy on Sunday, so I couldn't do the Sixers pregame, but I think the game before that was Portland. That was a Friday, so yeah.
It's tough, man. I feel like we keep getting shorthanded with the schedule this year. It's been weird ever since going all the way back to October. There was weird times scheduled back-to-backs. Then they wouldn't play for 4 days. So this week, like you said, they had 2 weekend games, and then they're off Monday, Tuesday, and now here we are. We were talking before the show, obviously, about our brackets at March Madness, and that's kind of where my focus has been. So, I mean, you mentioned hitting us up in the comment section, guys. Please don't be afraid to do that and get involved in the conversation, because it is a very interesting time to hear from our fellow Sixer fan base and kind of get their thoughts on where this team is at right now, Scotty, because at the end of the day, they're doing everything you could possibly want from them right now.
Yeah, they're in a really good spot right now, especially coming out of the All-Star break. They've been on fire, man. Honestly, they played some really good teams, and they've gotten some really good wins along the way. And I was actually just looking, because I know we were just talking March Madness. I'm looking at this weekend's schedule. Of course, we have a back-to-back Friday and Saturday this weekend. So, that's the stuff we're talking about. Like a Friday night game against Portland. Sorry, I don't blame you for not wanting to do a show or being busy on a Friday night, right? Like, and then, Sunday, it's Sunday night. Like, who wants to do a show on Sunday night when it's not football season?
During Selection Sunday.
Starting Sunday, literally starting at the same time. So, nonetheless, of course, they kind of screw us over with the schedule this weekend with March Madness, because 7 p.m. both days, Friday and Saturday. I'm sure March Madness is going to be right in the swing. Nonetheless, let's get the show in tonight. We're going to go over a little bit. Obviously, we had 2 games since we've last talked to anybody out there. The Blazers game, obviously, last Friday, you had the Blazers coming to town. The Sixers were able to get a dub, 120-119, 1-point victory at home. This is a game they trailed a lot of the way in.
The
entire game, right? And I believe they were down as much as 21 points during that game, able to come back. Embiid hits the game winner. Obviously, a sensational way to win a game. Interesting comments from Matisse Thybulle after the game. He was basically telling him, stop running your mouth. No, he didn't say it like that. He's just like, I don't appreciate the comments, right? So I thought that was interesting. Then you have the win on Sunday that was kind of the polar opposite. They had control of this game most of the way against the Washington Wizards. They win that one 112-93. And you get Embiid some rest in that game, right? He didn't have to play much of the fourth quarter. I don't think he actually came in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. I think Harden was like the only starter that was really out there at that time. But nonetheless, 2 great victories over the weekend. What are your takeaways from those 2 victories from the latest stretch of the Sixers? How are you feeling going into tonight's matchup?
I'm feeling good, man. Another 5-game win streak. You mentioned how good they've been playing since the All-Star break, and that's the biggest part, right? Like, they came out, and we know how grueling this second half schedule is over the last 25 or so games, and they weathered the storm through the first 6 or 7 games out of that break. They come away 4-3 over that record or whatever, over that stretch. And now you got a little the schedule eases up a little bit, and they take full advantage and win 5 straight against it, right? So I'm feeling good from an overall perspective. But when you look at these 2 games, like you said, that we did not really discuss or do pregame shows on over the weekend, it's got my confidence rising to an even higher level, because it's just them showing you they can win in multiple ways. Yeah. And that Portland game you mentioned, that they didn't have a lead. No, they didn't have a lead for any of it. They took their first lead with 1 second left when or less than 1 second left when Joel Embiid hit that fade from the free throw line just about, right? So that's a great win. Like, I get it. You probably shouldn't have been down to Portland at home, down 21. You came back, you found a way to win. And then
mind you, Simons was going nuclear that game. 8 for 12 from the three-point line. So ridiculous.
And then you come back on Sunday and you have a lesser talented team in the Washington Wizards coming to town, and you hit the nail right on the head. You controlled the entire game from opening jump. It was the second time in 3 games that Joel Embiid really didn't play in the fourth quarter because he didn't have to against Minnesota either. So you're getting him rest there. He's been dominant. Harden's been great. Maxi's finding his mojo. The bench is coming together a little bit stronger. So these last 2 games, albeit, yes, the Trailblazers and the Wizards, 2 good wins.
Yeah, it's as simple as that, right? They're games that the Sixers should win, and they ultimately took care of business. That's what we said going into that stretch, right? That was why it was so important to kind of get that win against Minnesota on the road, and then you get this stretch at home, that 2-game stretch there against Portland and Washington, and they're able to grab those wins as well. Sixers 6-1 in the month of March, so only one loss this month. 7-3 since the All-Star break. 33-11, which is first in the NBA since James Harden has came back. I believe that was in December. So they're arguably the best team in basketball since James Harden's been back.
I would just pose the question to any doubters right now. What more do you want?
Yeah. What can they do to prove more to you? Yeah, exactly. And I was listening to Brian Windhorst and Mark Spears on a podcast earlier today, and they were basically talking about how the Bucks are the team to beat. It's just funny that you say that. It's funny that they say that, because if you think the Bucks are the team to beat, then the Sixers are the team to beat as well. Because I believe we discussed this maybe 2 episodes ago, how close the Bucks and Sixers have been the last 2 seasons when they match up directly, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the difference of a couple points in favor of the Sixers. So if you think that the Bucks are right there, the team to beat in the entire NBA, Sixers are right there, right? We just took 100%. Them down on their home court.
110%. It is funny how the goalposts continue to move. I know you wanted to talk MVP in a couple of minutes. Those goalposts are starting to move, yes, in our favor, but I'm almost at the point like, no. Keep that same energy. I don't want you over here now. Like you're 3 years too late, man. You're 3 months into the season too late to switch sides and for the odds to move as crazy as they are right now. I don't even want it at this point. I want the chip on his shoulder still. So that's a conversation we're going to get into in a minute, but you're 100% right. And now, obviously, Milwaukee is taking over that 1 seed for the time being in the East. You have Boston dropping down to the 2 seed. They just lose to Houston the other night. I believe the Sixers, are we 1 game back, or are we tied with Boston in the loss column?
Tied in the loss column, 1 game back on Boston.
So, I mean, you are looking at the 76ers creeping up on the 2 seed. Yes, I get it. The 1 seed might be a little far-fetched with how little ground there is to kind of make that up at the moment. But, hey, man, you get the 2 seed, you at least get that favorable home court advantage in the second round, whereas we were looking at going to Milwaukee or Boston if we got to the second round.
It would be huge to grab that 2 seed. Now, obviously, to jump Boston, it can't be a tiebreaker scenario, right? You have to get a clearly better record than them, because we did lose the season series already. But nonetheless, it would be huge to get home court advantage against Boston or Milwaukee, whoever it may be. So that's why it's so important down the stretch to win these games that you're supposed to win. Now tonight, you got a tight one against the Cavs, right? Another team that's right behind you. The Cavs are 3 games back of the Sixers right now. So I
believe so, yeah.
This is one of those games. I know some people said that this will kind of decide whether the Sixers lock up that 3 seed. I don't know if I would take it that far. I don't think you can legitimately lock it up, but it would bode well. They would win the season series against Cleveland, and then they would be 4 games up on them, or 3.5.
Yeah.
So this is a huge game tonight. But before we get into that, like you said, we just wanted to talk about the MVP race briefly, because it sounds like you feel the same way as me in a sense. because honestly, I'm over it. Like I've been over it this season. I really haven't cared to beg for it for Embiid, beg for the attention like we've done in the past, because he doesn't care. And I think it's a good thing that he doesn't care about those individual accolades. Just to look at the numbers right now briefly, Embiid 33.4 points per game. That's first in the NBA. 10 rebounds per game, 4.1 assists per game. He's shooting 54% from the field, 35% from the three-point line, 1.6 blocks per game. He's at plus 150 to win the MVP right now. Nikola Jokic, 24.7 points per game, 11.9 rebounds per game, 10 assists per game, 63% field goal percentage, 40.5% three-point percentage, 1.2 steals per game. He's at plus 100 to win the MVP award. You have Philadelphia at 45-22. They have 5 wins in a row right now. Denver Nuggets are 46-23. They've lost 4 in a row. There, it's laid out the case for you, right? It's just funny because Embiid's been putting these numbers up all season. It's not like it happened just last week that he's averaging 33 points per game and leading the NBA in scoring. Yeah. So I think this is hilarious, and I'll let you know how I feel first, and then I'll throw it to you here. But looking at this, what this says to me is that the media is trying to force a conversation. They're trying to bring attention to the award, and they're trying to give themselves something to talk about, right? And I almost feel like they're kind of playing themselves into this corner where, yeah, we were given the nod to Embiid, but Jokic deserves it more. He averages a triple, just so they can bounce back and break our hearts. What I mean, they're trying to pull us Philly fans in, get us all aroused and hyped up, just so they can still pass it to Jokic or Giannis, which, mind you, the conversation you hear a little bit around the NBA community, especially on Twitter, is that Giannis deserves it over both of them now. So interesting all around. I'm interested to just hear how you feel about this whole MVP title chase.
So if there's anything I've learned over the last couple of years, forget eye test, forget fans on social media. Vegas knows. Vegas will tell you a lot for the most part. Giannis has dropped down to plus like 4,000. Like Giannis is, or 1,800. Like Giannis is almost out of this conversation. It is a 2-man race at the time being between Jokic and Joel Embiid. And listen, it's funny because I feel like this conversation we're having right now, we could go back on DSM's YouTube and find this similar conversation 2.5 years ago, right? Like it's been these two guys for the last 3 seasons. Obviously, the Joker has gotten it the last 2, and there's been a number of arguments as to why, right? One year it is health, and he's played so much more, and it's impact. One year it's the VORP, and it's the analytics, and it's blah blah blah. Now it's, well, he's the 1 seed. Well, I mean, I do recall Joel Embiid retrieving the 1 seed just a few years ago. That didn't matter because it didn't fit your argument. Now the Joker does. But overall, the Sixers have 45 wins. What do the Nuggets have after they drop 4 straight now?
46.
So the Nuggets have 1 more win than Philadelphia 76ers.
1 more win, 1 more loss as well.
So because the Sixers play in the tougher conference, that's seeding, 1 seed versus 3 seed. Okay, look at the records. Here's what I'll ask you. Everybody with a set of eyeballs can tell you that Joel Embiid is leaps and bounds ahead of Nikola Jokic on the defensive end of the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the other side of the floor. This is where people misconstrue this argument all the time, in my opinion. Is it ridiculous what this man can do with the ball and on offense? Is it ridiculous that a 7-footer is averaging a triple-double? 110%. The conversation has never been to put down Nikola Jokic.
Exactly.
But I'll ask you this. They rebound around the same, right? 10.5, 11.5, whatever the case is. Joker gets maybe a 1 more board than Joel per night. How much does Joel average? What was that number you said to me earlier?
Points or?
Points, yeah, points.
33.4.
He leads the NBA in points per game?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Last year, he led the league in the points, right? First big man since Shaq. Okay. What does Joker average points per game?
24.7. So 9 points off.
9-point differential. 9. So you're telling me that just because he averages 5 more assists, now I get it. It's pretty incredible that it's a triple-double overall. I will take 34, 10.5, 4, 1.5, and 1.5 from my center versus 24, 10.5, 11, and 9.5, 10.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's just personally, that's just me.
And I think it's funny because they'll bring up shooting percentages, but the point is there's a lot of times where Jokic just doesn't take a lot of shots. Like, that's his choice, right? He's not a go-to scorer for them at all times.
He was being subbed off the floor a couple nights ago for defensive purposes. The San Antonio Spurs are purposely tanking, and they took him to the woodshed in a loss for Denver the other night.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's
so
a problem.
If you're telling me the one thing he does better than Joel Embiid, he passes the ball better, he's healthier, and sure, his VORP's a little bit, his VORP's better, right? Are you joking with this same conversation we've been having for the last 3 years?
It's interesting, man.
I know I'm like fired up because like it seems like I care. I don't. I'm over the conversation. I'm honestly at the point where I don't even want him to get it because I want that fire lit under his ass this postseason run. The same fire that was lit under his ass when he took the Joker to the woodshed at the Wells Fargo Center. The way he took Giannis to the woodshed in Milwaukee. Let him have that chip on his shoulder this postseason.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. And I think we're going to see Embiid play with that chip the rest of this season into the postseason. It doesn't matter, honestly. I don't think he cares if he gets the MVP or not at this point because it almost feels like too little too late, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, like 3 years later, right? 3 years later, you're finally giving him some attention for the defensive aspects that he brings to the court, right? Like that hasn't been the case the last 2 years. So I'm with you, man. I will say they play on March 27th. They square off. Let me check and see where that is at.
It should be in Denver because, I mean, we played them
Should be.
home, right?
Yeah, it is in Denver. You are correct. So March 27th in Denver. If Embiid takes it to Jokic, maybe that seals the deal. Like you said, it doesn't really matter that much to us. We just want to get out of the freaking second round, right? Like that's the big deal for us here. But I do think, just as a precursor before we get into tonight's action, I think that's why we see Embiid do his thing tonight against Jared Allen, right? It's another person in his way, right? And I think it's another center that I'm not going to call him dominant or elite, but he is a good center in the NBA, right? Especially on the defensive end. So I think Embiid looks at that, and I think he's looking at all these matchups. You saw what he did to Rudy Gobert. I mean, I think he's looking at all these matchups, and he's coming in.
Defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, multi-time defensive player of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, man. But nonetheless, let's get into the action tonight, Dylan. We got the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland. Looking at the Cavaliers, they are 28-7 at home, so that is a pretty incredible home record. They're coming off 2 straight wins. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Currently fourth in the Eastern Conference. You have the Sixers on the other hand, who are third. They're 3 games ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers, 19-12 on the road for the Sixers. They've won 5 straight, 7-3 in their last 10. Keys to victory. Let's get right into it here, Dylan. Where are you going first for your first key to victory tonight against the Cavs?
In a lane where the Sixers do not normally control the game, and that is pace. The Sixers are one of the slower teams in the NBA. Obviously, when you have a 7-foot anchor that wants to take 20 seconds off the shot clock and go to work in isolation. James Harden likes to work in isolation. They run a lot of their stuff out of the half court. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 30th in pace. They are not a high-paced, quick transition team. So, what?
Huh? No, I was just saying interesting. No.
I thought you were. I was
like interesting. Yeah, that is interesting that they're that slow. I wasn't him.
Yeah, so I'm looking for the Sixers. Let me double check on that because you're. Yeah.
No. Honestly, I it's not that I think that they're elsewhere. I'm just surprised that they're dead last in the NBA.
Yeah, man. So I'm looking at that avenue, right? I'm looking for the Sixers to take advantage there. James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, D'Anthony Melton, the guard play. You're going to probably see the 3-guard lineup. You could see a 3-guard lineup tonight. And then otherwise, Scotty, the Sixers have trouble, as we know, guarding these longer, quicker scoring type of guards.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. Could give the Sixers problems tonight. No Jalen McDaniels for the Sixers off the bench. What would you stop more? Here's where I'm having trouble come out with my key. Are you trying to eliminate or slow down the perimeter shooting from these guards? Donovan Mitchell can shoot 5-6 threes per game. Darius Garland can hit it from the outside. Or are you trying to stop lane penetration from these two tonight?
Yeah, for me, I have my first key to victory here. It is lane penetration. So that's where I'm leaning. Just keeping them out of the paint and opening it up for others, getting guys into foul trouble, right? Getting guys on their back heels. Once they are able to get in the lane, especially guys like Darius Garland, who can feed the ball around to everybody. Once they start getting into the lane habitually, it's going to turn into a long night. So that would be my answer to your question. That is one of my first keys to victory as well.
So, yeah, I would tend to agree with you there. And my point being is, how can you slow down, or how can you not stop, but limit Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland tonight? And this is kind of a lineup where would you go against the 3-guard lineup then tonight? Because you don't want to expose Tyrese Maxey. You don't want to put James Harden on that island. Obviously, we know D'Anthony Melton a little bit longer, quicker, more equipped on the defensive end to take on one of those matchups. But if you're trying to limit lane penetration, if you're trying to limit these 2 guards getting buckets inside, wouldn't you tend to stick away from the 3-guard lineup then?
It's tough.
But reversely, to play devil's advocate, if you're looking at pace and offense, you might want the 3-guard lineup out there to get out in transition and put points up on the other end.
Yeah, and I would say, to your point, my second key to victory here is hit shots and hit 3-pointers, right? That's going to be a key in this game. That's key in any road game. You got to come out firing and hitting shots, right, to stay in the game or to get ahead in the game. So looking at Jared Allen, Evan Mobley in the paint, are you going to be going to the rack a whole lot with shot blockers like that in the middle of the lane? I think this is an opportunity.
Jared Allen is out tonight.
He's out tonight. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was updated. Interesting.
Yeah.
So Evan Mobley, is that who they're going to roll with at center? They got Robin Lopez that they could throw at Embiid. That matches up better with size, right? That's interesting because I wonder what they're going to throw at Embiid. Obviously, a lot of double teams, I would imagine, especially if they're going with Evan Mobley at center. Because not last game against the Hornets, because they rested some of their starters, but the game before that, they had Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Isaac Okoro, Lamar Stevens at the power forward, and then Evan Mobley at center, basically.
Okay.
But I don't know if you go that route against the Sixers, right? Because you can throw Evan Mobley on Tobias, you can throw him on PJ Tucker, and then you can put Robin Lopez. Then you're going to get Robin in foul trouble, right?
Reversely, if you're them, obviously you're going to have your limitations and your troubles on the defensive end, which are all in the paint going undersized. But
do you go small ball? Defensively,
you try to pull Joel away from the paint, or offensively for Cleveland, get him out of the lane, get him out of that rim protector role. So tonight, to me, if we're talking keys, right?
Yeah.
This is a coaching duel. This is a chess match tonight.
Yeah.
With who's in, with who's out, right? How does Doc Rivers decide to run his lineups and his rotations out on the floor tonight and kind of give the Sixers an advantage? It's something I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Coaching in itself, Doc has to show us an advantage tonight, right? This is JB Bickerstaff, who has complained in the past, right? So this is a prime opportunity for Doc to step up tonight in an important game, right? Especially when you're talking about seeding in the Eastern Conference. Final key to victory for me, Dylan, to kind of tag along there, just starting fast. It kind of goes along with everything we talked about so far.
Yeah.
I said hit shots, hit 3-pointers tonight. We need to start fast in that sense. but just starting fast, playing with energy from the jump, right? Come out and treat this like a playoff game. I think that's my last key to victory there.
I think that's an important piece because if you go back to Sunday and you look at the energy and Maxey on the bench jumping up and waving the towel, and people are talking about the vibes and how magical this team feels and how together they are at the moment. You don't want to come out the very next game and have that shruggish, slow start, not shooting well early, down 18 in the second quarter. You don't want any of that. Listen, this is not you got to win tonight, fellas. No. It's far from that. In Cleveland, very good team. 4 seed in the East. If you lose tonight, they could very well lose tonight.
Yeah.
However, effort is key, and it's always going to be key with this Sixers team. And to me, it shows a maturity process in number 21 because this was a problem you and I discussed going back 2 years ago when you never know what Joel you're going to get night to night in terms of up here, right? I haven't seen that pouty, shoulder shrug Joel in a very long time. So I'm looking for him to come out and to dominate and kind of set the tempo for his teammates tonight.
I'm with you. I like everything you said there, and especially coming off the fact that first game that we played Cleveland, I believe it was in Cleveland, they blew us off the court, right? And mind you, they came out hitting shots all over the place. Donovan Mitchell was on fire. But that's just the thing. If Donovan Mitchell comes out on fire tonight, which he can do that. We saw him score 70-plus points this season, right? So, if that happens, we need somebody to be ready to battle that and weather us through that storm. And I think to your point, Embiid has been that guy. Harden has been that guy at times. Maxey has been that guy at times. So we have options. It's just about guys doing their job tonight against one of the better teams in the NBA and the best defensive team in the NBA. We talk about the Sixers being a top 3 defensive team. Cleveland is number 1 when it comes to opposing points per game. So,
do you know what number makes me think the fact that the Sixers are number 1 in 3-point percentage across the league is that correct?
I told you, we talked about this so much. I feel like since the All-Star break alone, because that's when I really sat down and dug into the Sixers numbers.
It makes me rethink everything.
I know they're first in 3-point percentage. And we've been talking about they need to shoot more of them. That's kind of what I was getting at.
The volume might not be there, even though the percentages. Because here's why: when you're talking, what has been the one thing we wanted surrounding Joel Embiid since we've been in Philadelphia? Shooters. Yeah. So if you told me you have Joel Embiid leading the league in points per game, he's as dominant as ever, and the Sixers were number 1 in 3-point percentage, maybe that's why they are. Maybe that's a key reason why they are playing this well right now. Yeah. And we're just not even though we're high on them, we're not piecing together how good they really are still. So it's very odd when I see that first next to their team name.
It's hard to really understand how good the Sixers are just because you were missing Harden, you were missing Maxey, you were missing Embiid for parts of the season. So a lot of those offensive rankings especially are a little miscued, right? As soon as Harden comes back, they have the best record in the NBA. They have one of the best offenses in the NBA, one of the best assisting teams in the NBA. So Harden changes a lot of that, to your point.
I'm with you.
But I'm with you, man. I think this Sixers team is really good. And I think to your point about Embiid from earlier, you don't want to see, and not just Embiid, the Sixers team as a whole with the success they've had of late, you just don't want to see him come out and lay an egg, right? This is, as we get to the postseason, you want to see those type of games start to dissipate and not be there anymore. You want to see consistency. Unless you're resting your guys, then it is what it is. But tonight is the night where they should be going all in tonight and trying to get this W. So predictions, X Factor, what are you thinking there tonight, Dylan? You got a Sixers win in the books tonight.
I'm going to throw out the reverse jinx. My initial gut says no. I don't. They're on a 5-game winning streak. I know Jared Allen is out, but you're on the road. You're in Cleveland. Cleveland's kind of they still believe. I don't think they're going to catch the Sixers in terms of seeding and standing wise, but obviously they're right there as the 4 seed. So Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell. I think the Sixers struggle a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. I hope I'm wrong. So I'm going to say a loss. Here's how the Sixers come away with a win, however. Tobias Harris. You sent me a very interesting matchup-based stat earlier off of StatMuse of Tobias' numbers versus the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2 matchups this season. They're not so good. Okay, so Tobias Harris, who has been either Mr. Clutch, it feels like here and there over the last stretch, or Mr. Irrelevant. He's either non-existent or he's splashing a corner 3 with 46 seconds left, it feels like. Tobias Harris needs to step up tonight. No Jalen McDaniels could mean more time from him. I'm not sure how much you're going to want a George Niang type of player out on the floor tonight for the defensive purposes against Cleveland. So Tobias Harris, like I feel like we say this so much, but I need him to show up versus the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. And to his credit, he has done it a couple times as of late, but he's also had 6 points as of late. He's also taken like 5 shots as of late. Yeah. And that's just not good enough. It's not going to get the job done in the playoffs. I'm not asking for 18 points per night from Tobias Harris. 14, 15 from Tobias on maybe 9 or 10, 11 shots if there's enough to go around. So Tobias Harris is my X factor tonight, and I think he could play a big role in how the Sixers could come out on top.
Yeah, I love the pick there because Tobias Harris, he's one of those guys where you can beat the Cavs without him maybe performing his best, but when it comes to the Celtics and the Bucks, it's going to be showtime, right? Like he needs to step up and be effective. He can't be a nothing on the floor, right? Yeah. Like no what would you call it? Maybe even a decoy. Like sometimes he's not even that, right? Defenses don't even have to pay attention to him. And then you'll see those games where he's just completely hesitating the entire game. Everything is like a pump fake, and then you pass James Harden in a tight corner where he's double-teamed already. So that's the type of stuff I want to see Tobias move away from and just play confident. Play like you know how to play with James Harden. It's like Tobias Harris at times, he's like the only player that doesn't get better playing with James Harden. It's weird, but we've seen him be better, right? Especially when he's shooting the ball confidently.
That's the confusing part because we've talked about role definition with Doc Rivers and Coach James Harden trade, and we learned we saw Tobias Harris turn into a 40+% 3-point shooter from the corners off the catch and shoot, right? So we've seen it, and then he'll go mute. He won't have anything across the box score for a couple games in a row. So I think he's a huge deal in terms of teams like the Cavs because matchup wise, he could be a key tonight with an Evan Mobley, with a Donovan Mitchell type of player.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Say they do whatever they do. Say they start Robin Lopez and have Evan Mobley guarding Tobias or whoever, right? But maybe they throw him on. I would imagine they would throw Evan Mobley on Tobias, and they would let Isaac Okoro guard PJ just because I would imagine Mobley's a better defender. If that happens, Tobias, you can't just be out there standing doing nothing. So I'm with you there. My prediction tonight, I am going with the Sixers win tonight. And I appreciate the reverse jinx there because I did the same thing with the Milwaukee Bucks when they were playing them in Milwaukee.
There you go.
And it's one of those, it's a pick 'em, man. They are in Cleveland tonight. It's going to be a tough game to come away with a victory there. But ultimately, I do have the Sixers winning this one, 114-107, 7-point victory. They ultimately do get over the average that the Cavs give up scoring opponents' points per game. They only give up 110. I do have the Sixers outpacing that. And the reason that I'm kind of diving in on this game and picking the Sixers to win is because this does, weirdly enough, and I don't know if this is normal with the Cavs where we only play them 3 times in the season.
It's certain, it's Eastern Conference opponents that aren't in the division.
Okay, so we only play them this one last time, and this is going to decide the season series. So, not that you have to win it, you just should win it. It gives you much more confidence getting that 3rd seed rather than moving down to the 4th. So I'm going to go with the Sixers win there. I'm looking for a Maxey bounce back game, and I feel like I've picked Maxey the last few times with you on the show here, but it's just been one of those things where he hasn't looked himself. Maybe the last 2 games. I think last game he didn't play the whole 4th quarter. Didn't need him to. He only had 8 points in that game. Game before that, he didn't really shoot the ball well. I'm looking for him to bounce back in that sense. I think he's going to score the ball tonight. We've seen him have big games against Cleveland in the past as well. And I think just looking at that backcourt duo that you have in Cleveland, in Garland and Donovan Mitchell, we need Maxey to kind of balance that out on our side, right?
I'll tell you what's interesting about our two X factors is at least one of them better be an F and X factor tonight.
Yeah.
If neither of them pan out, the Sixers will not win tonight's game.
Absolutely.
This cannot be a James Harden, Joel Embiid show because while they can combine for 65, 70 points, if Tyrese Maxey shoots 3 for 12 and Tobias Harris takes 3 total shots, they're not going to get enough production from the other guys to keep up with this offense of the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road.
I agree.
So one of these two X factors needs to be that tonight.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. These are the big games. We need our guys to step up. We know Embiid is going to be there for the most part. We know Harden is going to be there for the most part. We need these other guys to step up and help those guys out for once, right? So I'm looking for Maxey. You're looking for Tobias. I think both have good opportunity tonight. Let's get into our last segment here, Dylan. We got 3 best bets for the crowd tonight. It's been rough of late because the Sixers, it's been so hard to measure, but this is a good matchup tonight. So I think we're a little bit more confident. At least I am a little bit more confident in these that we're looking at tonight.
Yeah, so if you guys have not been tailing our best bets, get on board. Scotty and I, we're 67%, right? I feel like we're 2-1 every night. Hey, it's profit. However, I want a clean sweep. I want that 3-0 night. And when I look at this board tonight, it just feels right. There's something about feeling positive heading into this matchup tonight. So when you look at the first one, obviously it's got the least amount of juice with Joel Embiid, but that's per usual, right? This number has been at 31.5 for the last 2 months. Sometimes you might get it at 30.5. But Joel Embiid over 31.5 points tonight against the Cavs at -140. Yes, it's not the prettiest of all bets. It is -140. You're going to have to eat some of that juice, but it just feels like this is a high 30, low 40 point per game point type of night for Joel Embiid. No Jared Allen. They have no answer. You're either undersized with a younger Evan Mobley, or you're going with 82-year-old Robin Lopez, who is going to throw that corny hook shot up on the other end, hit a couple times. So I love Embiid's points tonight.
He's hit that mark 5 out of the last 6.
Yeah, so I think the one that didn't hit, he scored 31 and missed 2 free throws at the end, if I'm correct. Then you slide down one. This is a gut play, okay? This is trends. DeAnthony Melton over 1.5 made threes at +105. D-Melt has hit 3+ in his last 3 games. He has taken at least 4 or 5 threes in his last 9. He gets up in volume. He's starting to heat up after a slight cold streak and not being really involved in the offense. On the road, like I said, the others are going to have to step up tonight. Look for DeAnthony Melton to hit some threes tonight. It feels like he could hit 2 in the first 4 minutes of this game. It just happens sometimes with the way the ball finds him. Maybe not. Maybe it takes him to the fourth quarter to cash, but I like D-Melt over 1.5 threes at +1.
Between him and Maxey, I think we were going back and forth. Maxey's at 2.5. I think that's at +140. So they both have plus money juice, right? I think 2 threes for D-Melt is a steal, man, especially at +105. And like you said, he's been hitting of late, and I think this is a matchup where he's going to get a good amount of playing time tonight with those guys on the other side and his defensive purposes. So love the D-Melt threes there.
I do agree, and I personally have stayed away from the Sixers over this past weekend in terms of bets. D-Melt might be a play I throw in over the next 15 minutes or so. So I'll let you know about that. Finally, last bet of the night of the 3. Team total for the Sixers over 112.5 total points. So 113+ for the Sixers score tonight. You mentioned it. The Cavs are very good defensively. They're great at home, record-wise and defensively. But without Jared Allen, without that rim protector, I'm looking for the Sixers to score. They've hit this mark. Obviously, they had 112 against Washington. It was a blowout for most of the game. The pace was slowed up. Before that, they had hit it in 5 in a row. Ooh, 5 in a row.
You go back to February.
You could be correct, but yes,
5 in a row. Yeah.
So I'm looking for the Sixers to continue that tonight, especially if they want to win, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the key there. If they're going to win this game, they're going to have to score over this amount. And I think that speaks obviously to the defensive prowess of Cleveland, but I'll be honest, my feeling going into this one, Dylan, I think the stars are going to show up tonight. This is on national television. And I think the Stars are going to show out tonight. I think they're going to go back and forth. We're going to see some D. Mitchell, nice plays. I think we're going to see Embiid, Harden, all of them really get after it. As much as both of these teams are really good on defense, we've seen, especially the Sixers on the road, right? They give up points, so they're going to have to score buckets tonight.
I mean, Christ, the Indiana Pacers scored 137 or whatever.
Exactly. Against the Bucks, 133 to 130 victory against the Bucks. So, and that's without overtime. So this is what we're looking at. We're talking about two of the best teams, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA squaring off. I think we're going to get the best shot from both of these teams tonight.
Yeah, no, and just kind of to wrap up this pregame, listen, I don't have them winning tonight. I don't want to. We don't pick them every single night here. What would be the point? There's no analysis. We're just homers, right? So this is just a gut feel. However, I will say, A, I hope I'm wrong, and B, this is another opportunity over this schedule, over this home stretch, for them to continue to gather attention and to gather confidence within this fan base, because you're on a 5-game win streak. You're 7-3 post All-Star break with this grueling schedule. You're on the road after looking as good as you did over the weekend, especially on Sunday night against lesser teams. You come out tonight on ESPN primetime 7:30. You come out tonight and you win this game. We're going to have some fun over the next week or so.
Yeah. You're going to open some eyes, man, because not only, everything that you said, you win this game, you win the season series against a team in the Eastern Conference that you just never know. You might end up playing them. You never know how it's going to work out, right? So just having that upper hand and confidence going into maybe a 7-game series against this team, it's good to have it. And it, you look at the opposite end against a team like Boston, where we've gone 0 for 3. You don't want to have a team having an upper hand. You want to control that as much as you can. So,
absolutely.
Getting a victory in Cleveland tonight in a game where Cleveland, if you're Cleveland, you got to feel like you need this one, right? If you want any chance at that 3 seed. So I think they're going to get,
especially with how good they are at home.
Yeah, they're great at home, 28-7. So I think we're going to get Cleveland's best shot. Obviously, I have them winning tonight. I went against them in the last big game against the Bucks, so I'm not going to go against them tonight. But I do agree with your points. It is one of those funky matchups for the Sixers because we both picked the Sixers going into that Mavs game. We watched Luka and Kyrie drop 82 on us combined. So if something like that happens tonight with Garland and Mitchell, you can end it right there, right? You just can't let that happen. So control the penetration, control Mitch, and control Garland. Let's get the W nonetheless, guys. That is going to be it for this episode of Sixers Pregame Live. Be sure to tune in. We'll get one in on Friday. We may have to get it in a little bit earlier in the day just so we're not in the middle of March Madness. So just keep your eyes open. We'll see how the schedule plays out for that. But, guys, have a great rest of your night. Go Sixers. Let's get this W and continue opening up eyes, right? Have a good one, guys.